G'day there, and welcome to another edition of the COURAGEPRENEUR podcast. I've got the honour and privilege of interviewing the amazing, inspirational and fun-loving Ben Baker. So thanks, Ben, for joining us.
Bix, it is a pleasure speaking to you from across the pond. How are things down in
Absolutely.
Oz?
And you're tuning in from Vancouver, Canada,
Right.
aren't you?
Exactly. From one Olympic city to another.
Absolutely. And I love it because I say you're in my yesterday, I'm in your tomorrow.
It's true. It's true.
Fantastic. And for the listeners' benefit, Ben is not only a podcast host, which something close to my heart. He's also an author and a speaker as well. And he's got his business brand, Your Brand Marketing. And you're a hubby of 24 years and you're an avid golfer, aren't you, Ben?
You know what? You could do my PR any day. You got me all nailed down. I love this. I don't have to do any of the work. You could just sit there and tell my story for me. I love this.
Fantastic. And we connected via LinkedIn, which I know we're both very active on, and it's an incredible platform, not only for business, also for drilling down to find out a little bit of personal stuff about people. And that's really what the COURAGEPRENEUR podcast is. It's interviewing people such as yourself, Ben, who have overcome adversity and abuse or tragedy and trauma and going, okay, this is what's happened to me. This is where I am now, and this is how I've got from A to B pretty much. So looking forward to sharing part of your story, Ben.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've all had challenges. Some bigger, some smaller. Some things are, these horrific things that have happened to people, and other people, it's just, what, they've had a really bad couple of days or a really bad couple of months. But it's how you deal with it. And I think that's the key thing. It's just, I know people that you listen to their story and you sit there going, oh my God, how did you ever get through that? And they're some of the most positive people you've ever met in your life. And they've come through it and they've excelled, they've thrived. And other people, they break a nail and their life has come to an end. Exactly. So I think it really comes down to your mental state. How are you resilient? How are you adaptable? And I think that's really the lesson to be learned.
Yeah, I love that word resilient too. And you've touched on our first question, Ben, is what does courage actually mean to you?
You know what? To me, courage is the ability to get up again.
Yeah.
And I think we're all going to get knocked down. We're all going to have adversity. We're all going to have things that don't go our way. It's how do we get up? How do we dust ourselves up? How do we learn from our experiences, good and bad? How do we adapt and how do we move on? And I think that to me is courage. And some people may be deemed as far more courageous than others, but a lot of it just comes to the fact of, do you have the human spirit to persevere? Are you willing to move forward, or are you just going to take this travesty and make it own you the rest of your life?
Yeah, and have your own pity party. And I love that. It's not, the quantum leap of success or being courageous. It's just literally progress. It's picking yourself up, dusting yourself off, getting up. That is courageous. So I love that. Ben, what was one time you were feeling less than courageous? Because it's great to find out, people's highlights. I love talking about people's lowlights. So what's one time, whenever in your life, personally or professionally, that you were feeling less than courageous?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started my own company, I went out on my own in 2013. 2008. I went out on my own, right in the heart of the Depression. So you had made this decision, you had formed a company, you had told all your customers, and you said, okay, I'm heading out on my own. And then the recession hit. And you're sitting there going, there's no way back. There's absolutely no way back. You are out there on a ledge by yourself, and are people going to come? And you're sitting there and you're worried about it. And you just sit there and go, you have that sense of doubt. You have that sense of, oh my God, what have I done? Am I going to survive? Am I going to be able to take care of my family? Is anybody going to actually want to spend money with me? And eventually, and we're talking a matter of days, not weeks, not months, not years, the phone calls started coming in and people started finding out that I was actually, I was no longer at the company I was with. I was on my own, and people started calling me and started saying, you know what, come in, let's have a conversation. Let's figure out what we can do and how can we help you? And it was more of how can they help me? And I found that that was so gratifying to be able that go from that position of doubt, that position of fear, that position of, oh my God, what have I done? To all of a sudden having people say, you know what, we don't have a lot of work, but we trust you.
Yeah.
And we're willing to work with you, and we'll figure this out together. And I think that that was a really humbling part of my life.
Yeah, and that was obviously a very courageous moment. You didn't know, like you had that fork in the road. You didn't know whether to turn left or right, whether to keep going. And then people supported you. And I love the fact that, you know, friends, colleagues, business associates, they support small business owners, because a lot of people are in business, you know, as small business owners. And it's just so great that they stood up and supported you, enabling you to support them as well. So business,
Exactly.
I don't care what business you're in, whether it's real estate, selling widgets, or you have a physical product or a service, business is about people.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, first and foremost. So I love that, you know, you have that integrity, and they virtually supported you because of your integrity. So kudos to you, Ben. So that was great. So that would have instilled, you were saying you had the fear and the doubt and you didn't know, which is human nature. We all
Sure.
have that, had those emotions tied to that. So what was one time when you were like could conquer the world, you felt absolutely courageous, on top of the world?
There you go. Are
We
you back?
obviously had a breaking transmission then, so I
We
have
did.
had internet issues, but yeah. So just reiterating, Ben, what was one time when
Yeah.
you felt absolutely courageous?
And I think that, times that I felt absolutely courageous, probably one of the biggest times I felt absolutely courageous is when I asked my wife to marry me. And that's, I mean, that's
Fantastic.
24,
Yeah.
that's 24
20,
years
yeah,
ago. I mean,
how exciting.
that you
Yeah.
sit there and say, you know what, it's time to stop being the single guy
Yeah.
and stop just being responsible for myself and start being, forming a family unit. And I think that that is probably, I mean, there's lots of courageous times in my life, but
Mm.
that's a pretty courageous time where you're sitting there going, okay, is she going to say yes?
Yeah.
Is this something that's going to work out? Is this something that's going to be, and the answer is, you know what, let's go for it anyway.
Oh,
And,
I love that
there's
because
lots of things in my life, but I think that that's the one that comes to
yeah.
mind.
Yeah, I love that. And you've actually given me goosebumps, because it's not the, you know, jumping off a, doing a bungee jump or closing that deal. It's, well, it's obviously life altering, life
No, I would say
enhancing
it's like
for
bungee
you.
jumping.
And how amazing is that when you asked your then fiance or girlfriend to marry you? Oh, I love that. So that's great. So, you know, I'm all about courage and the couragepreneur, Ben. What I do have is an acronym. I like to keep it simple. So I'll ask you a few
Perfect.
questions, 7 questions about courage. I know we've already touched on it, but I like to get a feel for what your definition of courage is. So our first
Sure.
letter in our courage acronym is obviously C. So I know we connected on LinkedIn, but how do you connect and communicate with others, Ben?
You know what? LinkedIn is probably my number one. It
Mhm.
truly and absolutely is. I mean, especially during the world of COVID.
Mm.
I'm a keynote speaker. I'm an author. I'm a podcaster, and those are all different ways that I get in touch with people.
Yeah.
But right now, within the world, social media is a very good thing for me to get in touch with. But I don't just reach out. I'll sit there and I'll have conversations with people, and I'll sit
Mm.
there and go, you know what? Let's take this offline.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many times, I mean, you and I did this, a lot of people did it.
This is
I'll just say,
exactly
let's
the
have a Zoom chat. Let's
same.
have a
Yeah.
telephone call. Let's
Yeah.
jump on a WhatsApp. And I've made friends with people around the world over the last 9 months
Mm.
because you're sitting there going, you know what? I have no idea where this conversation is going. I have no agenda. I have no ulterior motive. Let's just have a conversation and find out about each other.
This
And
is such
sometimes
a
I say, you
mic
know
drop,
what? You need to
because
talk to this person. And
yeah.
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. That's such a mic drop moment, Ben, because that's exactly what we did. Like we take
Exactly.
it offline, and by offline, it's basically one-on-one. We have a Zoom, you get to see the person, you get a feel for their energy, their vibe. And yeah, what you said is exactly what I do as well. And we do have so many synergies, speaker, podcast host, and MC as well. And just love it. And it's all about connecting and communicating. So our next letter, Ben, is having an open heart. How do you have an open heart, or what are you open-minded to?
My heart belongs to the people I mentor. They truly do. I love mentoring the next generation. I love being able to sit there and say, you know what, ask me the questions that you have, because no one was there for me in a formal sense. I had informal mentors growing up. I had people, friends of my parents that I could sit there and say, hey, what do you think? But I never had that type of relationship where I could go and talk to people on a regular basis, ask them, things about business, about life, about family, about whatever, and have somebody that wasn't going to judge me and just going to give me an open, honest answer. And I love doing that for people. I do that at the university level. I do that for people professionally. And my attitude is I want to elevate people. My true goal and thing is if I elevate others, everybody wins. So that's probably the best I can say.
We rise by lifting others up. And I love that.
Absolutely.
You have you have various mentors. You've had various mentors in your life, and now you're stepping up into that, because there's a saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. There's also another saying, an amendment to that: when the student is really ready, the teacher disappears. So you become the teacher. And that's what you've become, from the student with being a mentee to being a mentor. So I love that. So that's how you've got that open heart. And really, I know your students, in inverted commas, absolutely love that. So that's great. So Ben Baker, what makes you uniquely you? Our next letter in our COURAGE acronym.
What makes me uniquely me?
Yeah.
What makes me uniquely is pretty much the fact that I say things the way they are. I tend not to be that political double speak, and which some people love and some people hate. But when I'm doing a lot of consulting, I'm the one who's going to call the baby ugly. If the baby is ugly, or the thing's broken, or something needs to be fixed, I'm the one who's going to tell you that needs to happen. And you know what? If you fire me, you fire me. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. But really, the thing's broken. We need to fix it. And I try to be open and honest with people, the best I can. And I think that's what really makes me uniquely me.
Good on you. And I resonate with a lot of what you're saying as well. It's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if it is broken, say something and then aim to fix it.
That's right.
That's a really valid point. Thanks, Ben. Next one is R for relationships. Could you provide our listeners one tip for building quality relationships, Ben?
That it's got to be two ways. Relationships have got to be two ways. And relationships aren't perfect. And you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to make each other angry, and you're going to disappoint each other. But it's the people that can sit there and say, you know what, I'm sorry. And let's fix this together. And whether it's personal relationships, it's business relationships, or whatever, nobody's perfect. Not the people you want to have a relationship with, and certainly not yourself. And the more that we can sit there and say, you know what, we're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes, own up to them, fix them, and move on. And I think that's what forms the best relationships.
Great advice. And you touched previously on, that integrity, and I believe vulnerability and authenticity as well. And that's exactly what this podcast is about. It's drilling down to the tough topics and having those courageous conversations around, the topics that were traditionally taboo. So I love that, and just being genuine, and it's two-way. I heard a quote the other day, and it's really resonated with me, because I say we have two ears and one mouth, but listen to understand, not to respond. And so communication, Dad always drummed communication in. I'm one of 3 children, now 2, because sadly my sister passed away, and she is an inspiration to me for getting my podcast. And so really listening. So just that two-way street in relationships. So thank you for sharing that. That's great tips. Ben, you're a happy-go-lucky guy. We are positive people. I know we're not positive all the time because we're humans, but how do you keep your amazing attitude? Our next letter, A, amazing attitude.
Well, I got a saying that says the glass is neither half full or half empty. It's refillable.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really what drives me. It's the fact that things are not perfect. Things are never going to be perfect. Things are not always going to be the way you want them to be, but that doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means you have to sit there and say, okay, how do I make lemonades from this set of lemons? And how do I change my world to be able to reflect the reality that I see? Because it's people are going to throw things at you and you have no control over it. All you have control over is how you react.
Yeah.
And do I do it always perfectly? No. Am I always happy-go-lucky? Absolutely not. Do I get frustrated? You bet I do. But the more we can sit there and say, okay, how do we fix this? How do we make this better? How do we make this better for everybody? It allows me to have that positive attitude.
Yeah, I love that because I used to react really quickly to things. And being a survivor of 3 life-threatening car accidents, 2 which I was fully lucid and aware. The first one I was sleeping in the back seat. Loud noises, I absolutely react to them. They just like not so much trigger, but my body just reacts. And that's not something I can control. However, I'm learning to respond to situations. And part of that is a lead into my next question. But I do breathing. It's like I just simply take 3 deep breaths and then think, well, how should I respond to this? So, it's a really valid point that you touched on, responding to events, because events just simply are. It is our feelings and our emotions and our response to it that makes it so. So our next letter, Ben, is G for grateful. How are you grateful for things in your life?
You know what? Let's take COVID for a perfect example. I have a roof over my head. I have food in my stomach. I have a family that loves me. We have space that we're not on top of each other. And, I tend to see the positive in things, and I tend to be as grateful as I can. And we have a saying where we get together every Friday night for dinner and we go around the table and say, what are you grateful for?
Oh, I love it.
And I think that it's important for us all to be grateful for the little things. None of us needs a 15,000 square foot house. None of us need a 180-foot yacht. None of us needs to fly in our own private jet around the world. They're nice to have, but our life is just fine without them. And I think that the more we can sit there and say, what do we need? What do we truly need? And live our life based on that versus the stuff that we want. Then I think that we're always going to be happier people.
Yeah, there's such a difference between needs and wants. And I actually said that to my son. He rang me the other day and said, what do you want for Christmas? I said, a happy day. I don't really need, I could do, as you said, with the bigger house and things like that, but they're simply things. It's just being present in the moment with people. And I love that you sit around the table on a Friday night and you share something that you're grateful for. And it is those simple things. And COVID has really drilled that into me. I mean, I'm a statistic non-employee. I lost my full-time job as a store manager. That was like a big epiphany to go, right, girlfriend, get your stuff out there, do your podcast, further advance your coaching and really do what you want to do. So I'm also grateful for that. But just the simple things, blue sky, the sun, whatever it is.
Yeah, and you guys are heading into your summer months, so you guys got a lot more blue sky than we do.
Yeah, we do. And a lot more warmer temperatures, because I was speaking with my daughter this morning and it's very cold in the Netherlands. Yeah,
Yes, it's very
we're
cold here too.
literally
So
on day 4 in summer. We've just gone into summer this month in December. So yeah,
perfect.
I'm a summer babe. I love the warm weather. So, and I haven't been to Canada yet, but it is definitely on my bucket list. Yeah, yeah. But look, we're both all about enjoying life, Ben. So how do you enjoy life? Our next letter.
You know, right now it's about going for long walks and listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
That tends to be it. I mean, we don't go out to eat. We don't really bring food in because my wife's a phenomenal cook. I enjoy playing golf, but it's December. I'm not playing a lot of golf in December.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just sitting there going, all right, we're having a gorgeous day. Let's go out for a walk for an hour.
Yeah.
And just doing those little things. And for me, it's the little things that make me happy.
Yeah.
And I think that those are the things that I do, and that's what I enjoy. So, I'm not playing volleyball, I'm not swimming, I'm not doing any of those things right now. But you know what? You sit there and say, what can I do?
It's
Great, we can go for a walk and I can listen to a podcast. I'm happy doing that.
Yeah, it's like the proverbial pivot, and going for walks and listening to podcasts. And I know you listen to positive podcasts as well, Ben,
Mhm.
because what we feed our tummies, we also need to feed positivity into our minds as well. And yeah, there's just so many synergies with us, and that's why I'm wanted to interview you, and thank you so much. So if we could leave our listeners with one thing about courage to take action on, because whilst knowledge is powerful, Ben, applied knowledge is more powerful. So what's one thing about courage you would like our listeners to take action on?
I think that the one thing I'd want them to be courageous about is to look deep inside themselves and say, what are the things that are important to me? Not what's important to my neighbor, not what I'm seeing on social media, not what I'm hearing on the radio or the television. What are the things that are important to me? What are the things that are going to excite me and are going to help me live a valuable life for myself and live that life? Stop worrying about what you see on social media. Start seeing that somebody else has a better job or makes more money or lives in a bigger house. It doesn't matter. If you're happy where you are, then that's all that matters. People are going to live their life. They're going to have whatever they're going to have. There's people that are going to be more than you. There's people that are going to be less than you.
Yeah.
But you need to be comfortable with who you are and what you do.
Yes, I never
And
play
that's what I want to
comparison
be
game.
able to be courageous enough to be comfortable in their own skin.
Be comfortable in their own skin. Yeah. And yeah, you touched on social media being such a powerful tool. It can be a weapon, but it also can be a very powerful tool, and listening to podcasts and everything like that. So yeah, in summing up, we've spoken about how to connect and communicate, how to have an open heart, how to be uniquely you, how to develop real relationships, how to be grateful. That's an important one too, and how to enjoy life. So thank you so much for your time and inspiration and wisdom, Ben. Really appreciate that. For our listeners, what's the best way for them to get more Ben Baker? How do they get in touch with you, Ben?
You know what? I've made it really simple. Everything is in one place. It's all in the one website, yourbrandmarketing.com. If they go to yourbrandmarketing.com, they can find my courses, they can find my books, they can find my podcast. Everything is sitting in one location, ready to go, and it links right to my social media.
Fantastic. And we did obviously connect on LinkedIn, so Ben is active on LinkedIn as well. But thank you so much, Ben. Appreciate your time, your energy, your vibe, your positivity, and sharing a bit about yourself. That's been incredible. Ben Baker from Calgary.
No,
Canada.
Vancouver.
Oh, Vancouver.
We're close.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time, Ben. Have you got any closing remarks?
Pix, just enjoyed being on this, and keep being authentically you.
Thank you, and likewise. Thank you so much. This has been Pix Jonathan, the Couragepreneur, with the amazing Ben Baker. Thank you, and go out there and courageously live life, love life, and be your best resilient self.